Way back in the spring of 1990, 10-year-old me was given a $5 allowance. In search of something to spend my money on, I came upon something fantastic at my local convenience store newsstand. It was then that I started a lifelong obsession with the gold standard of sequential art, the comic book. Now, as an old man, I have decided to open up some old boxes and dig into my comic book collection. I decided it's time for me to review and analyze the illustrations and artists that made me comics crazy. Hey folks, welcome one and welcome all to another episode of Chris Crazy House Presents Comics Crazy, and we are here with the final part of the Youngblood Strikefile story featuring Diehard, and we're going to take a look at this comic, analyzing the artwork and the composition of the characters and the panels, and we're going to start off with the cover. And, you know, I would say, this is my humble opinion, that this is probably the weakest of the covers. Okay, I thought this cover could have been a lot better considering what we got from the other two. And I'll grab the other two right here to let you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's look at these covers together. And this one, very clean, very well drawn, very well inked, very well colored. Not the best as far as showcasing action, but gets you a good intro for this series and for this particular story. This cover is completely badass. You got the two antagonists that are going to be in the story kind of facing off against each other, and you're seeing them half and half. So very cool. This one makes you definitely want to pick up this issue. And then you have this. Not the best cover whatsoever. Just my opinion on it. I get the theme of having a battle-damaged Diehard, but I thought this could have been a lot done way better than it's done here. And one of the main things that I have a problem with is, I'm just going to come out and say that it seems very lazy, that the fact that you have the character of Diehard here in kind of a battle pose, but you have half of his body in shadow. And I guess that it's supposed to be, his body is supposed to be going back. This part is going back and this part is coming forward. But you're not getting that because there's hardly any perspective on it. It's very straightforward. And only part of his body is in shadow here. And I like this part of it where you see that parts of his costume are coming undone. Those cables that wrap around his arms and his shoulders, those are busted open. You see the wires coming out. You see his skin showing here from the ripped parts of his costume. Parts of his leg on his costume are ripped as well. And you see the mechanical cyborg parts exposed. So that part of it's cool. I like that part. But you don't really get as much of... This would be better if it was just drawn a little bit better and had a little bit more effort put into it. It almost seems like Rob had ideas for the other two covers, but not so much this one, other than the fact that Diehard was battle damaged. And to be honest, it almost doesn't even look like Rob drew this cover, other than like the face or whatnot. It might have been a situation where he had some ideas and he let the inker kind of come up with the rest of it. That's what it seems like to me. It seems like a hodgepodge of different things. Maybe that's who this person Kirk is. I don't know. But I see Rob Liefeld's signature. I see the inker, Mickey's signature. And you got someone named Kirk here. So I don't know if that person is the one that finished this cover in particular. But it doesn't feel like the other two at all. So that's my critique of the cover. Let's break open the book and look inside. And we're continuing right where we left off with Diehard at the mercy of the new cyborg-powered Superpatriot. And Super Patriot is lumbering over him, about to smash him with some sort of rock or something like that. So this, at least with this, you can kind of see the cracks and a bit of the debris that he's about to throw on top of Diehard. So my critique from the last book was I wish we knew exactly what Super Patriot was holding. And I guess with this one, at least you can see a little bit of the cracks and stuff. It's not just completely black. But we start off here, Diehard looking at Super Patriot, almost kind of like basically the same image that we saw in the last book. And we get another panel of Diehard kind of looking on, and we're getting some more exposition dialogue of what's happening. I don't think that that's necessary per se, and I don't think this panel should be as big as it is. This probably could have been a little bit smaller, but you know, this was the time period, so I guess they were trying to get an extreme close-up of Diehard's face here and making it as big as possible. Well, we get back to the double splash page, and we see that Diehard's shield has bounced back and hit Super Patriot right in his lower back area. And if Super Patriot is my age or older, that lower back area probably hurt worse than anything else in life. I'm just saying, you know, at my age, I've hurt my lower back in this area lifting stuff. So if someone hit me with a superpower shield right there, I would go down immediately. You would get no more trouble out of me. I'll just say that. I'm probably revealing a weakness of mine, but that's just what it is. But this is a cool way of showcasing, you know, I guess, of Diehard getting out of this situation of his shield kind of bouncing off of something and coming back and hitting Super Patriot in his lower back. Now, once again, this at this point, you're not trying to make something intimidating, or it's not trying to show that your character is in danger. So at this point, I would do away with this whole shadow thing going on here. It worked for the cliffhanger. It worked for showcasing, you know, keep kind of like a pickup shot of where we were in the last issue. But at this point, if I were going to do this, I would still keep the shield hitting him in the back, but I would put all the light so we can see Super Patriot holding this with his hands. I think this is a way of them trying to avoid drawing Super Patriot actually having some sort of mechanical hands and not those pipes on his arm. But we pick up right here. Diehard sees his chance to attack. Now that Super Patriot is distracted and this rubble is about to fall on his head. And this is actually a pretty cool shot of the way Diehard is kind of positioning himself to give a final punch to, you know, to knock Super Patriot out. And we see it right here. Kachuk, the haymaker, or the sucker punch as it's called here in this panel. And this is a cool shot. I love this a lot. He hit him with what I call the Cleveland bus driver, you're going to jail now uppercut. That's exactly what happened in this panel here.
You going to jail now. You going to jail now. You going to jail.
He told, if Diehard could have said the line, you're going to jail now, that's what he would be saying while he's hitting him with this uppercut. I remember reading this when I was a teenager and laughing, because this was always the suggestion of one of my older, very knuckleheaded brothers who said that this is the way to finish a fight, is with an uppercut like this, where you put not just fist, but some elbow into it as well. So this is actually how my brother used to demonstrate those types of punches too, which is always funny. So it makes me laugh when I see it now. But it looks great as far as being a drawn panel for this page, and it works well with creating a little bit of, you know, siding of a panel itself. The fact that they even want to add some more to this, where, you know, Super Patriot is kind of flying backwards and being punched by Diehard again. I mean, this was the big shot right here, so you really almost don't need that extra punch. But this punch right here, it could have been done a little bit better with this scene here, in my opinion. You know, because you have such a great shot here this almost seems like an afterthought to the point where it's probably better even not to have it. But we're going to get another double splash page of Diehard getting all up in Superpatriot's neck here. And I'll flip it over so you guys can see it better. Now, once again, we're going to talk about the continuity of action. If you look at this page here, or even starting right here, Diehard's mask is not ripped up. His face is not messed up yet. Neither, and all these little red bands or pipes or whatever he has wrapped around his shoulders, those are still intact. All of a sudden now, it almost seems like he damaged those himself by throwing this sucker punch. But now the red pipes are broken, and for some reason, now the pipes are broken and his face is partially exposed. So you gotta be careful of stuff like that. All right, if you want to have your character be battle damaged, because he definitely is not as battle damaged as he is on the cover, this actually looks like something that you would have seen in issue 2. Like the way that the exposed face and even the rips on the clothes are exactly like the cover from issue 2. So maybe this was a leftover splash page from issue 2 and they just decided to put it here in this book. That's almost what it seems like. Because like I said, the design of it is very similar. But if I can pan down a little bit, you can see that Superpatriot is not doing too well. Okay, now one of his eye goggles is busted and he's kind of prone and he's in the distressed position that we earlier saw Diehard in. And this time, I guess he's flying through a wall at this point here in this panel. And this would have been good to see the wall here maybe. Maybe there was a way he could have figured out to put maybe a piece of the wall or whatever he's flying through other than just having him floating in this debris, because this almost looks like he's flying through space, just like empty space. And I understand having the big sound effect in the background, but this could have been better, done a little bit better, maybe if you show where he was flying from. But finally, we see our antagonist, Superpatriot, is defeated. Diehard stands over him triumphantly, and he decides to, instead of just leaving him there, he remembers the mission of wanting to rescue Superpatriot, so he's going to take him out of this facility. So he picks him up and flies him out of there. And, I guess this is he said there's, the main thing is trying to get out of this place. But at this point, all the danger seems to be gone. He's not really in danger of getting out. Like, no one's chasing them. There's no alarms going off. There's no soldiers chasing them. Maybe this would have been a lot more action-packed if he had maybe some soldiers chasing him, or maybe like, the bleeps of an alarm going off, maybe like some red lights or something, just to add a little bit more drama and action to the scene. But at this point, it seems like everything's fine and, mission accomplished. He's flying Superpatriot out of there. And we jump right back to now Diehard is back at the base. I might have had an establishing shot. If I was doing this, maybe have an establishing shot of Youngblood's base or wherever they took Superpatriot to, maybe some government facility. And they're talking about how, they're going to be doing some work on him and making sure he's okay. And they're assuring Diehard that Superpatriot is in the best of hands. Okay, so he's been taken away from this evil corporation of cyber data, but now he's in the control of the government and everything's going to be okay. Because, of course, we can trust the government, can't we? Snark, sarcasm all the way. But we see that, they're looking at Superpatriot and this government facility, and we got to turn the page once again of him hanging here. And the only confusing part I will say of this is that, once again, you got characters that are supposed to be looking up at something, but this seems very flat from where the character is actually standing. I don't know if he's supposed to be on the ceiling, on the wall. This would have been better if it was more of a low angle shot of the character kind of being strapped up like that. But I get what's going on, but it's a little confusing with the way that it's drawn here, because like I said, they're looking up at something, but this is very flat. This is more dynamic, surprisingly. So obviously he should know that if this character is looking up, he knows how to do a dynamic shot of the character. And this page right here looks very well done and well drawn of Diehard. Now, in my opinion, I would have made Diehard look a little bit smaller. He looks a little bit more triumphant here. The fact that he's so big. I understand what they're going for is that Superpatriot looks very pitiful in this position, and Diehard is kind of musing to himself that this could easily be him in that position. But I would have made, Superpatriot look a little bit more bigger or a little bit more grand. Maybe even make the shot look a little bit more disturbing with maybe like a scientist working on him or trying to fix him or whatever. That would have been my idea to get more emotion across in this scene. But Diehard's looking on, and we see him here. He's finally, leaving the area where Superpatriot is, and Glory comes back. She's the one that sent him on the mission in the first place, and we see her here looking good and looking fine, and, kind of talking to Diehard about, their worry about what they're going to do to their old pal, Superpatriot. But we find out more about that later on in Superpatriot's solo series that Eric Larson is putting together. So we see the two heroes kind of walking off, and that is the end of the Diehard solo story for Youngblood Strikefile. So overall, this was not the greatest story, but it wasn't really meant to be. It was basically meant for just pure action and adrenaline all the way through. And I do believe that these pages, the actual action pages, are done very well. They're drawn very well. They're inked very well. They're colored very well. A little bit of inconsistency when it comes to the continuity of the action sequences and maybe some of the clothing or some of the, just the background characters or the backgrounds themselves. But it is done pretty competently. And, per the course of early 90s comics, like I would say this, if you were a comic book artist who drew something like this and you weren't as famous or as big as Rob Liefeld at the time, I would not be mad at you for making a book like this. Okay. Like if you drew something like this, I'd be like, oh, this shows potential. At the very most, I can say that, there's mistakes. Yes. But it's very well done overall. And I can't knock the quality of these books that were coming out at this time. So that is my review for Youngblood Strikefile. And we will be coming back with the next episode. We're going to be looking at Jay Lee doing the art for the Chapel story. And this is going to be a lot different. There's a little bit more story here. And this artwork is phenomenal. So, you definitely want to be here for that. You can even see it here. Jay Lee was kicking butt at this time during the early 90s. And I know he's changed his style somewhat, or actually a lot, because it's not as surreal as we're going to see here. I kind of like this style a lot more, where he was a lot more surreal with what he was drawing. Now it's a little bit more realistic. But just that heavy use of the shadows and everything, we're going to get into that and analyzing that when we come back with Youngblood Strikefile #1, the Chapel story. And this is some good stuff we're going to be looking at. But we are finished with the Diehard portion. You folks can let me know in the comments how you feel about it, if you enjoyed this review, but also let me know what you think of the books themselves and what you think of the advice I'm giving you as an artist who's worked both in comic books and children's books, and my critique of the artwork itself. Let me know what you think about that in the comments section. I'd very much like to hear your opinions on that. Make sure you go ahead and like this video. Go ahead and hit the like button. Make sure you go and subscribe so that you're here next time when I do the next episode of Comics Crazy. And make sure you share this with anyone else who's a fan of reviews of these classic comics from the 90s. Anyway, this is Chris Crazy House signing out. Peace.